Despite being threatened by tablets for a while, laptops aren't going away anytime soon, and Microsoft is back with a new version of the impressive Surface Book. Here's our in-depth Surface Book 2 review. Price: the Surface Book 2 is undoubtedly an attractive laptop, but the big question here is whether you can afford it. With prices starting at £1,499, not many laptop buyers are going to be willing to get even the cheapest model. At this level, the Surface Book 2 is competing with some serious rivals, including the MacBook Pro. That starting price is for the smaller 13.5 inches model, which goes all the way up to a whopping £2,999 if you want the top-spec model with a Core i7. We'll explain the different configurations later on. There is a larger 15 inches Surface Book 2, but this won't be available in the UK until early next year. It's coming out in the US first. You can order the Surface Book 2 right now from Microsoft, and it's also available from Currys PCWorld. Design and build: there's little about the design of the Surface Book 2 that's different compared to the original, and we can hardly blame Microsoft for this. Microsoft has once again opted for a silver casing made from magnesium, and overall the device once again looks and feels very luxurious. Build quality is up there with the best laptops around, and you'd hope so at these prices. Clean lines and symmetry are on show here, as is Microsoft's clever dynamic fulcrum hinge. Once again, the Surface Book 2 is a 2 inches one device, so it's a laptop and a tablet that can be used in various different modes. A clever electronic muscle wire lock system is still in use to connect the two sections together rather than magnets. It's solid, and there are improvements like fewer parts to make it lighter and a more seamless disconnect. The release button must be held down, so don't do it accidentally. You'll need to release the tablet section if you want to use it without the keyboard, or to spin it 180 degrees for other usage modes. The hinge doesn't fold the screen all the way over like some 2 inches one devices. As with the original, the keyboard and trackpad feel great, offering a smooth experience. We found typing fast and responsive apart from the half-sized up and down arrow keys, and the trackpad works very well, but the push-click is quite loud. The laptop is marginally lighter than its predecessor at 1.53 kilograms, but that's still quite heavy if you're looking for a laptop to take around with you everywhere. Part of the reason is the inclusion of 2 batteries, so this might be a worthwhile sacrifice if you need a laptop that lasts a long time. Design qualms are all pretty minor. For example, the screen is still quite wobbly when you move the laptop or use the touchscreen, and the 2 full-size USB ports are a little close to each other, so you might not get 2 chunky flash drives in at the same time. Specs and performance: the second-generation Surface Book might look pretty similar on the outside, but there are a number of different upgrades on the inside. Let's take a look at what's on offer this time around. Screen: Microsoft has stuck with essentially the same display as the original Surface Book. It's still 13.5 inches with a 32 aspect ratio, and as mentioned earlier, the 15 inches model won't arrive in the UK until early next year, so for now it's this or nothing. The PixelSense display still uses a 3000 by 2000 resolution for a 271 pixels per inch pixel density. As with its predecessor, the screen on the Surface Book 2 is stunning and everything looks nice and crisp. At full, the screen outputs a very healthy 420 cdm2. Colors reproduction looks to be top-notch again, too, so it's a great choice for those doing tasks such as photo editing. Arguably, the price means you really need the specs and features on offer here to justify getting it over rivals. You can use up to 10-point touch at the same time, and as you'd expect, the Surface Book 2 is compatible with the Surface Pen and Surface Dial. Both are sold separately this time around. Microsoft told us that not enough customers used it with the first generation, so decided to make it an optional extra this time. With the Surface Book 2, the Dial accessory can now be used on screen. Processor, memory, storage and graphics: it's no surprise that the Surface Book 2 gets some internal upgrades, starting with the processor. It's jumped from a 6th-gen Intel chip to at least a 7th-gen Core i5-7300U. So at the cheapest price you'll get the above chip, but all of the higher spec configurations have Intel's newer 8th-gen chips, also based on Kaby Lake. It's a Core i7-8650U, so you jumped from dual to quad-core and 3.5 GHz max turbo clock speed to 4.2 Hz. There's another key difference if you get a Core i7 model, because while the Core i5 relies on integrated Intel HD graphics 620, the Core i7 means you get discrete NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 with 2 GB of GDDR5 memory. That's potentially a big difference depending on what you want to do on the Surface Book 2. It's worth pointing out that the discrete GPU is housed in the keyboard section, so you don't get access to that power with the display detached. For those wanting as much graphical power as possible, it's going to be worth waiting for the 15 inches model, which will come with an NVIDIA GTX 1060 with 6 GB of memory. Like the original Surface Book, there's a choice of 8 to 16 GB of RAM, 1866 MHz LPDDR3, and you get a choice of 256, 512 and 1 TB storage capacities for the SSD from the off. Microsoft held back the 1 TB model of the original in the UK for a number of months. Here are the 4 options when choosing Surface Book 2 configurations: Core i5, 8 GB, 256 GB, Intel HD 620, Core i7, 8 GB, 256 GB, NVIDIA GTX 150, Core i7, 16 GB, 512 GB, NVIDIA GTX 150, Core i7, 16 GB, 1 TB, NVIDIA GTX 150. Performance is exceptional, so the Surface Book 2 will satisfy power uses as advertised, and that's just the 13 inches model. As you can see by the benchmark results below, the new model offers significant gains compared to the original, all while being incredibly quiet. Again, you've really got to need this power to warrant splashing out on the Surface Book 2. It's a device fit for professionals like graphic designers, architects and the like. Using anything above the Core i5 model for word processing and web browsing is overkill. If you want performance, the Surface Book 2 is where to get it, but you'll need to get one of the more expensive models with the NVIDIA GPU. We tested the top-spec model with a Core i7 and 16 GB of RAM for both generations. Ports and other specs: once again, the Surface Book 2 has 2 full-size USB ports, 3.1, a full-size SD card reader and a headphone port. There are some changes though, as the laptop no longer has mini DisplayPort but USB-C instead, along with 2 Surface Connect ports, 1 on each section of the device. While USB-C is a nice addition, despite losing DisplayPort, it's all plain sailing. The port doesn't support Thunderbolt and therefore can't run multiple displays. The Surface Book 2 can only manage one unless you use the Surface Dock. There's 11 AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.1, stereo speakers, dual microphones and the same 5 and 8 MP front and rear cameras. The front one can be used for Windows Hello facial authentication. It's perhaps a shame not to see a fingerprint scanner as well at these prices. Battery life: we were a little bit blown away by the original Surface Book's battery life, lasting a whopping 16 hours and 25 minutes in our usual video loop test. Microsoft claims 17 hours of video playback on the Surface Book 2, so we're expecting a similar result. As before, there's a battery in both sections of the device, so you'll get 5 hours when using just the tablet and a further 12 from the larger one in the keyboard. In our usual video loop test at 120 cm to 55%, in this case the Surface Book managed a respectable 4 hours and 51 minutes on just the tablet. When plugged into the keyboard and utilizing that second battery, it lasted for 13 hours and 43 minutes. So that's just over a couple of hours short of the original, which is a shame, but that's still a figure that trumps rival laptops. What you need to be aware of is a power problem with the Surface Book 2. As our colleagues on PCWorld have detailed regarding the 15 inches model, when at peak performance, it can draw more power than the charger is supplying. This means that the battery will drain with the power supply connected while playing certain games on the best performance setting on the power slider. Here's what Microsoft said on the matter, speaking to The Verge: in some intense, prolonged gaming scenarios with power mode slider set to best performance, the battery may discharge while connected to the power supply provided in box with Surface Book 2. However, through power management design, the battery will never drain entirely, ensuring that users are able to keep working, creating or gaming. So it's quite a specific problem, but certainly one to be aware of if you're wanting to use the Surface Book 2 for gaming.